Welcome and thank you very much for joining in. This is the Family Talk Show here at Church of Uganda Family TV. Thank you very much for keeping it Family TV. We are always happy and excited to know that you are there keeping it Family Talk Show. The Lord bless you. Today is a very exciting evening and we have a lot to share with you. Yeah, in the studio today we have a great couple, an amazing couple. Christine Aliku and Barnabas Samuel Aliku. I know you are so excited, and today we will be discussing raising responsible teenagers in this era. Yeah, it is really exciting, and your host as usual, my name is Claire Bwenje, and I'm just reminded that the children are on holiday. I know you'll be excited to learn today. Actually, our greeting changes when the teenagers are at home. It's a hi. Oh, what up? Someone once told me what up. And I'm like, oh my. Yeah. So our guests in the studio, please say hello to our viewers, and then we kick the ground running.
Wow. Our dear viewers, you're most, it's a pleasure to be here, and just to know that you're out there watching this. Claire, for me, it's such an honor to be here, and I know you'll be blessed with a conversation you're going to have as we indulge in it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, our viewers. I'm so excited to be here with you this evening. Claire, I am so humbled to be on this show, and I'm more hoping to learn very many things from you, even as we go on with the show. God bless you.
God bless you too. You're most welcome, Sam and Christine. We are really happy to have you here at Church of Uganda Family TV, and thank you for honoring our invitation. We were jazzing while outside, and we were saying it's not easy to be expecting someone you're on pressure. When they come, you feel relaxed. So we are relaxed to have you here. Anyways, like I said, our topic is raising responsible teenagers in this era. And the teenagers we are talking about, the children between 13 years of age to 19 years of age. Yeah, I know parents out there are breathing in and out, and they're like, that is it. Teenage, hey, parenting teenagers. Anyways, to you, Pastor Sam. So tell us, how were your teenage days as a young teenage boy? How were those days? And also, what was your relationship with your parents?
Well, thank you so much, Claire. It's an honor to be here. Maybe before I indulge into the conversation, we're the Alikus, as Claire introduced us. We are pastors at Mavuno Church. Mavuno is a Swahili word for harvest. And we also reach out to the boy child in this city of Kampala, and God has graced us to write also a workout books, workbooks, for about 6 curriculums. So we run an NGO called Rehoboth International Life Ministries, and we reach out to the boy child, and we have programs like Boys to Men. I'll be showing some material here towards the end. Boys to Men Boot Camp, where we take boys away for 1 week, and that is happening next month in December. We take the boys away in Entebbe. We shall be at Focus Gerenge for a week with the boys, and then we have another program called Mothers Raising Sons, where we reach out to the boy child through the mother and male caregivers, and then also we have another program called Man of Honor. Man of Honor is a program for men. It's 10 weeks program. Men go through the program just to call out responsible masculinity and to bring them to a space of being priests in their homes, and also to take on responsibility, and especially walk through the journey of a man, especially to reach the eldership in a journey of a man. And then we have another program we call the Strand of Three. It's for couples who have broken up. Christine and I have written these materials, and it's for couples who have broken up but in the process of divorcing. And we are saying, look, let us take these 12 weeks with you and see if we can revamp this. So the strand of three is just to say God is the third strand in this relationship. Yes, because nobody wakes up in the morning and say, I'm going to wed, and after 3 years I'll divorce. No. Yes, so we look forward to seeing how we can harness this relationship. Then the other program we have is Shepherding a Teenager's Heart. It's also a program we have written. It's 8 weeks. For parents who have teenagers, how can they do this 8 weeks program and also see how they can salvage their relationship with their teenagers. And then we have another one called Pursuit of Purity. That one we shall be launching it in April.
Wow.
It's basically for teenagers from the age of 13 to 17, boys and girls, and how can they go through this journey of knowing more about each other, learn from each other. So those are the programs we run, and by God's grace, Vine Awards recognized us recently. We are recipients of Vine Awards. Vine Awards Family Impact.
Wow.
Yeah, we got a Family Impact Award, and to
nice.
God be the glory because
Amen.
of the things we're doing in the city. So reaching out to the boy child. Yes. So basically, that is what we are doing. We are so passionate. We are both professionals, but God has called us out to reach out to the boy child, and we're saying, much as God has you have something to do out there. There is a calling on your life. Like Claire, yes, this could be your niche, that this is the calling. Much as you could be a professional as a doctor or as an engineer, but it's something that God has called you to do. And so for us, we strongly feel God has called us as Levites of this time to reach out to the boy child and men in this city of Kampala. So besides that, I'm a transformational life coach, certified transformation life coach. But by training, I'm a culture tourism consultant. Yeah, so that's me and what I do. Back to your question. Growing up, it was quite an interesting space. It was, as a teenager, first and foremost, I was raised by a single mom. At 7 years, our dad walked away. So we were raised by a single mom, and we were 4 boys. And our elder sister, and mommy had this interesting disciplinarian. Yeah, because you just know that we were 4 boys, and it was quite something. The testosterone in the house were high, and we broke stuff in the house. We went and caused chaos at the neighborhood, and they brought cases at home. So my mom was more of a judge, a magistrate, a lawyer at the same time, trying to resolve these teenagers. Because we didn't also have a father figure, a father to look up to. So we had this gap in us, and we somehow, it is said, even as we walked with the boys, we realized that boys, the first person they fall in love with, the first woman they fell in love with is a mother, and the first person they rebel is a mother. So we found ourselves being so rebellious, and mommy didn't take it so lightly. But we found ourselves doing house chores. At that time, we didn't like it. We're dragging our feet, banging doors. But later we realized when we were at campus, we'd cook for ourselves, we'd do the house chores, that you need to do. So that was a kind of life. Growing up, we didn't have fences, we didn't have wall fences. It was freelance.
Wow.
We could see your neighbor, what they're doing on the other side. We could also, So it was quite an interesting space, which is far different from what it is today. So growing up, it was quite an interesting space. Relation with my dad and mom, because my dad was not there, if I can just be vulnerable to you, I was quite angry with him, and also angry with my mom, because there was no friendship. She had too much pressure trying to go through the rat race, bringing food on table. So there was no time of having mommy and daddy time. Mommy, daddy time. No, we admired our neighbors who we saw go through that. So for us, it was quite a tough space for us to go through. Yes.
Wow. Thank you, Pastor Sam.
Yes.
So how did that affect you growing up without a father figure? Has it affected you in any way? Do you sometimes feel like, if I had my dad, maybe this would be of help? I would have learned some things from him. Has it affected you, or life is okay?
Yes. No, what happened is it made me have resolves, in the sense that when I saw my dad had 3 wives. In me, I resolved. I said, I'm going to be different. I'll not do that. So growing up, it was more of, in the first place, it was more of trying to prove my dad wrong. That, you know what, I can do this even without you. But later I realized it was a wound I was struggling with. Yeah. So if it was a very, very tough time. I grew up hating dad, hating my mom, because also she didn't have time for us. So it was very, very challenging in that aspect. So it has affected me as a father. But on a good note, because of what I saw daddy doing, and I made a resolve growing up, I'm not going to be like that. I've ended up being a very intentional father, very, very intentional. I happen to be a very intentional father, if I can just say that. I homeschool my children. I made my mind up and said I'm going to homeschool my children. I use a curriculum called SEE. I also decided that despite what daddy was going through and what I saw my dad doing, I'm going to be an exceptional father. I'll be there for my wife. Whenever my children come, I go to the theater and I cut the cords.
Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't see my dad do that. I said to myself, I'll have one wife. And so those are some of the things that I radically made as resolves. But also, it has helped me to also, it pushed me towards my calling, which is, I want to believe it's my calling to just reach out to the boy, child, and men. Because I was like, if all boys and men are going through what I've gone through, then I should change the narrative. And through doing that, I had discovered my true north, which is, unfortunately, it was in my 30s when I discovered that my calling is really to reach out to the boy, child, and men. Yeah, but that pushed me as well because daddy was not there. Yes, so it somehow, I think the scripture says, what the enemy turned
meant for bad, the Lord turned it for good.
So for me, it has been a good thing just doing that, knowing that I can impact other men and boys and men because of what I went through.
Wow, that's nice, and I'm happy that even when you didn't have a father figure, or when he was there and he had 3 wives for you, you turned it for good, and you're like, no, I will not do what my father did.
Absolutely.
That's amazing, and I'm happy. I also realized the genesis of you being passionate at nurturing boys came from way back.
Right.
Wow, that's nice. To you, Christine, how were your teenage days as a girl? I'm actually now interested to hear your story as a girl. Were you breaking plates? Were you escaping from the house in the night? What was happening in your days, 13 to 19 days?
Wow, thank you so much, Claire. My teenage years were quite interesting. I didn't necessarily have my mother or my father with me. I left my parents' place when I was about 10 or 11 years, and I went to live with my brother, my big brother.
Wow.
So sometimes I try to understand how my teenage years were, and I also don't know how they were, but I'll try to remember the few bits that I can remember.
Christine, Aliku means great. So we are with the great people in the studio. It's really exciting. In case you've just joined in, don't you worry. You will still catch up. Our topic today is raising teenagers in this era. Before we went for the break, Pastor Sam had just briefly told us about his teenage days as a boy. And now it's Christine's turn to tell us how was she as a teenager and what was her relationship with her parents.
Wow, thank you, Claire. As I was saying just before the break, there was nothing really very exciting or very curious about my teenage years. I left my parents when I was very young. I went to live with my brother. And generally, because usually girls, your teenage fights are with your mom. So I don't think I had that chance to actually have the fights. Yeah. But also because I got born again at a very young age, it kind of helped me just sail through most of the things that would actually be a challenge for teenagers. For instance, I've never been to a disco hall. I don't know what it looks like.
Wow.
Because I got born again when I was about 10, 11 years.
Wow, praise the Lord, Christine.
So, yeah, generally most of my teenage years, I spent most of my teenage years
it was a reverse.
Yeah. I spent most of my teenage years in church, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
So there's
Praise the
nothing
Lord,
exciting.
Anyways, we want to thank God for that. So the Alikus, most parents say that this teenage age, 13 to 19, is the hardest time, especially year 15. And some parents say parenting teenagers is the hardest. It's so difficult. I'm speaking in a mother's voice. It's so difficult. Yeah, so what's your experience? Is that true? Is it difficult? If yes, how difficult is it? And from your experience as parents, how have you nurtured your teenagers?
Wow.
Wow, Christine,
You want me to go first?
Yes.
Before I actually answer, I want to say thank you so much to our teenage girl, Alia Tendo. She has allowed us to use her as our sample space. Because, we've never raised teenagers. So we learn everything from her. And we keep on telling her we are very grateful that she's allowed us to use her as our learning space. We make our mistakes with her. We learn with her. We learn together. Yes and no, they could be very difficult, that's true. But also, it is possible for them not to be very difficult. I want to say that when our daughter turned 13, I think that was the hardest time and the most challenging time in our parenting. I think she was dealing with so many things, and also because I didn't necessarily have particular teenage experiences, so it would also be very hard to relate to what is happening to her. So it was difficult on her and difficult on us, but we worked through it. We worked together through it. I don't want us to take the glory because she has worked through this journey with us. Every step we get to, we ask her, how would you want us to parent you at this stage? What are some of the things that you think are different for you as opposed to what we experienced as teenagers? Because the times are different. The millennials and us, she keeps on telling us we are BC, born before computers. So our challenges are very different from their challenges. But I want to thank her that she has allowed us to walk this journey with her, which has made it a lot easier. It was very difficult at the start. I can tell you, it was very, very difficult.
How difficult was it?
Remember when she turned 13, I don't know if I need to say this, she denounced God.
Oh, no.
Yes. She said that was a thing of her parents. She doesn't believe God really exists. Yeah, she had all her reasons why, and she reads a lot, so she had been reading so many things.
Literature about.
Yeah, and before she was a teenager, she was our prayer rock. She was very prayerful, so it was such a big blow to us. And we kept on asking ourselves, where did we fail? What did we do wrong? But actually, she was just trying to discover herself. So we had a chat with her and told her, you know what? We can't force you to believe God, because God and your relationship with him is very personal. But we are praying for you that you'll be able to understand him as a person. Don't believe our God. Discover God for yourself. And we thank God, by the time she turned 14, she had developed such a strong relationship with God. Right now, she's one of the people that I can call on to pray when we are going through a difficult time.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to know. You said you usually ask, how do you want us to parent you?
Yeah.
What are some of the answers she gives you?
Okay, it's quite
I'm trying
interesting.
to draw
Yes, what
pictures
happens
here.
is, Claire, it's so clear that also we what you've just said is we do it every first Sunday of the month. We give them a small snapshot of time just to say how they vet us, how are we parenting you, and it's amazing. Like I didn't say this, but we have 4 disciples,
Wow.
2 boys and 2 girls. We have a preteen and a teen, and it's quite interesting. But they tell us, "Daddy, you never say sorry. Mommy, you did this and that." And then we also give them a very short time, because if we go prolong it, it will go down south. But yeah, some of the things they tell us is we don't have time for them, we don't relate with them, we are bringing our past times into their times, and we shouldn't do that. And we've discussed phones, yeah. But yeah, so those are some of the things they tell us.
Yeah, the other thing they tell us is, for them, they relate through TikTok and Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you see them together as teenagers and they're on their phones, it's not that they're not relating, which I disagree with. But they told me I am busy, so
Before computers, yeah. Someone said this era is the era of microwave, fridge, internet, TV.
That's true. But just to be clear, one thing we have to understand here is that there's a shift. And what we're dealing with, for instance, for us, we're born before the millennials. And the millennials right now, they have their own challenges. And I think it's us as parents to understand, especially if we're parenting millennials, we need to understand that there's a shift. And then also, one thing also to put in play right now is that we're looking at issues of post-COVID. Remember, there were 2 years locked down, and very many young girls, teenagers became pregnant, and so many things happened. So we're looking at post-COVID-19 challenges that our parents out there are grappling with. And so many of them, if you look at the rural settings and also the urban settings, these are things that parents are really struggling with. And maybe if you allow me time, I could just peruse through some of them, which parents are really going through. And maybe a parent out there may resonate with some of the things. Be it in a rural area, be it in an urban setting, but lack of time, this is one of the biggest challenges that parents are faced with today. In a day where parents, especially moms, have to juggle between many duties and also managing office work, it's a lot. So the time there is a very big issue that is affecting parents out there. And remember, we have to bring food on table. We're in the rat race, many parents. So some parents, they will resonate. There is no time. Then there's also failure to teach children the fundamental moral values. Today, parents have kicked out the dining table. The dining table was a place where we sat, parents sat and asked questions, and also told the children, by the way you're eating is not well. You're the type, one day you'll have a date with a boyfriend or girlfriend, and the way you're eating, she'll run away from you. Some of those are things that, and then also on time, picking and dropping from school where you have time to talk. Even if it's a walk, parents are not there. So there is also failure for fundamental teaching those values there. It's one of the things. Then also the imbalanced life. Very many parents are having 80% of the time in the marketplace and just 20% at home. And and this affects children, especially teenagers, in very many ways, because what parents have done is they have ended up buying data, and also maybe picking the children late from school and pay the fines. But at the end of the day, you're missing out on these children. So the imbalanced life of having 80% of the time in the marketplace, with the place where you're influencing, this is also affecting the children. Then there's also the lack of trust and understanding between teenagers and parents. Parents are away at work, unusual, the lack of excellent, strong bonding, and this leaves the teenagers. The connection has faded where parents are on different tangents with their teenagers. So that's also one thing that is affecting the parents in this challenge, in this times of parenting. Then also there's nutrition deficiency. Teenagers today prefer KFC, McDonald's, and parents are really struggling with this. Tell them, you give them greens and they say, yuck, I don't want. And these are some of the things that parents are really grappling with. And we end up with children, our parents raising up, as teenagers, we went to the neighbors and ate guavas, we went to eat mangoes, we ate, everything, fruits, name it. Today teenagers are indoors and parents
don't eat ice cream.
They do ice cream, they'll do KFC, and those are some of the deficiencies that parents are really grappling with. Fast foods, the traditional Sunday meal where you came home, got bananas from the banana leaves, and everybody sat around the table, and all that is going away because parents are in this rat race, running after money. So then also the other point is also excessive use of gadgets. Teenagers out there are using gadgets and parents are buying gadgets. At the boys camp where we have the boys, we have every December we go to the remand home where we take boys after the boys camp. We take them to just see real life. They're boys. The last time we were at the remand home in Aguru, there's a boy who boxed his friend when playing football, and he died. And the boy was 9 years, but he boxed his age mate by the diaphragm, and he died. So we take these boys who are so entitled to the remand home and have Christmas with the boys in the remand home. So we do this this time around, our anniversary, our 18th anniversary is always on this 19th of December. Last December, we had it with the boys in the remand home. I'm yet to convince my wife to have another another anniversary with the boys in the remand home. But yes, so we take these boys and they see the reality that indeed they are boys who are confined. They are juveniles that are in a place where they are locked up and they don't even have access to a gadget. And the boys get to appreciate that as well. So excessive use of gadgets is pushing. For us, we push tires. Asked about what we used to do. We push tires. We went on a slope where it is sliding and we sat on banana leaves and slid down, kwepena and all the things. Boys today and teenagers out there, they're on gadgets today. So it's one of the things that are really affecting, and parents are grappling with this. They don't know how to do it. And some parents are just able to get apps for these boys to manage and teenagers to manage. Then there's also aggressive behavior. Teenagers today are very aggressive. In the past, your mom only had an eye at you and you knew an African mom's eye. She's meaning I shouldn't pass here.
Please don't.
No, today the teenager will ask you, Daddy, why?
Why?
Mommy, why?
But that eye.
Yes, and and you have to respond. So why are teenagers becoming so aggressive? Claire, I want to believe that the overall cause for this is because parents, even ourselves, because we are stressed, we have become so impatient and less tolerant and as a society. So we find ourselves also, because I'm so stressed at work, I come home and the teenager's hormones are going through his body, there are changes here and there, and we're just, so the house is on fire. And so the parents are really struggling with that. Then also there's judgmental attitude. Today, a teenager is expected to be perfect in all ways, and parents are really struggling with this. There's cyberbullying, and the world out there is expecting these teenagers to be in a certain way. So parents also, the parents have to put up a lot in effort to make their teenagers come up to the expected benchmark, only to help them get to the expected society, because their teenagers, their friends are expecting them to do X, Y, Z. So the parent is also taken up with the pressure. My child has to hold an iPhone 14. My child has to. So parents also got into that judgmental hype. Then also there's too much study pressure. Today teenagers have huge books, and some of them are really going through, a child as early as 10 years, they are going through a lot of studying pressure. Maybe 10 hours a day, a child is under pressure, more than even your working hours that you do, maybe at work from 5 to 8 to 5. A child is leaving home at 6 a.m. to go to school. For us as Christine and I, we chose to just have our children, to homeschool our children. And it's something I would commend for any parent. Why? Because we found SCE a very interesting curriculum. So we have homeschooled our children for the last 7 years, even as missionaries. So it's one of those things that is really pushing teenagers. Teenagers are pushing a space of, if you see some of them carrying books from school, you're wondering, is it a tourist going somewhere?
There are so many.
There's so many books. Yes, so these kids have to study and stay up to the mark to survive a cutthroat competition that it's too much, and they have to do it. Then lastly is, I think, protecting teenagers against child abuse. Very many parents are so scared even to just leave their children in the lift, even as simple as a lift. Sleepovers and all the things are something that parents are struggling to allow into their space. So parents are really grappling with protecting their children not to be into those spaces where there is compromise. But let us look at Uganda situation. If you can have a look at some statistics, it's very, very interesting. Most children in Uganda have experienced physical violence that are threatened halts of their holistic and positive development. And it's said that 59%, imagine 59% of the girls and 68% of the boys are affected because of this violence, and this affects family big time. There's also another statistics I came across that only in Uganda alone, 30% of households are led by women, and then it takes you back to a place of fatherhood as well. That 47% of the children have been fathered and their fathers are not there. Some of them it was a one-night stand, and the researcher was a factory in Uganda that researched this. I think that was 2018. I want to believe it's not been different from then up to now. So the statistics are quite staggering about just gender-based violence and sexual violence that are also persuasive, with at least 35% of the girls and 17% of the boys having experienced sexual violence during childhood. So these are some of the things that we are grappling with as parents raising teenagers in this society today. But the most important thing here, we should have to realize that there is a post-COVID effect that parents are grappling with. And then also there's a common saying, Claire, out there, that we're in a cassava economy. Yes, yeah, I think His Excellency told us to eat cassava, so people are calling it the cassava economy and saying, look, parents are grappling, they want to bring bread on table. So the rat race is real, and yet teenagers are also going through these hormonal issues. They want the parents, but the parents are not there. So those are some of the things that parents are really grappling with, and in today's world, it's really quite something, because girls are especially at risk of child marriage. We are seeing, especially in the rural areas, girls are getting married, teenagers are getting married. Today, 4 in 10 women aged 20 to 49 are married by 18 years. That is in Uganda. That's the Uganda statistics. That's the UNICEF. And at least 1 in 4 teenager girls are either pregnant or have a child. That's also very staggering. So child labor is persuasive. Children mainly working in informal sector in rural areas. 93% of children are engaged in agriculture, only in the countryside. So these are some of the things that are really affecting teenagers. So parenting teenagers is coming with quite a number of its own challenges. But post-COVID issues are real. And then the economy today, the fuel prices, only everybody is pointing fingers to the Russia economy. So Russia and Ukraine. So these are some of the things that are really parents are really struggling with out there, even as we raise responsible teenagers. And raising a responsible teenager, by the way, Claire, we have to remember that there is also a dysfunctional family where it's a single mother. or a single dad. So these are also some things
Yes.
that this parent is also grappling with these teenagers by themselves. The mommy and the formal would be mommy and daddy, and then this teenager, and maybe the two of you can easily see how to manage. Like Christian and I, we have been able to harness this and sustain it because I think we are all there. I homeschool my children, and so I have a bit of time with them. So that has not been a big issue. But I can imagine a single mom who has to go out and fend for the family, and yet there's these 3 or 4 teenagers in the house. And then there's no male voice or whatever it is. So these are some of the things that when the parents out there, and I know there's a parent that can resonate that, look, I am a single mom and I'm struggling with this, and only I need is just the grace of God, because teenagers can be something. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sam. And from what you're telling us, we realize it's a lot that is happening in this era.
Absolutely.
Parents are so busy that teenagers are having a lot happening. Change of hormones, it's really a lot. And I feel like a mother or father out there is asking, how can you help me parent amidst this busy time, busy era? What do you give them out there? How can they parent their teenagers amidst their busy schedules? Yes,
Well,
Christine.
Thank you, Claire. I want to say that there is hope. It is not easy, but there is hope.
Right.
You know, the Bible says in Proverbs 22, verse 6, that train up a child in the way they should grow, and when they grow up, they will not turn from it.
Right.
I believe if we intentionally train these teenagers in the basic foundational principles, when they grow up, they will not depart from them. Amidst all the challenges, I mean, God is there to help us. We are not helpless.
Yeah, our topic this evening is raising responsible teenagers in this era. Yeah, this time of .com. Yeah, and in the studio we have a great couple, Mr. Aliku and Mrs. Christine Aliku. You're very, very warm welcome. We are happy to have you, and especially to learn from you. We are really, really learning a lot from you. Thank you for sharing your experience. So before we went for a break, we were still talking about how one can really raise a teenager in this busy time. And Christine was telling us that we have to be intentional, especially when it comes to raising these children. Yeah, and I also feel like, you know, these are not our children. They are God's children.
Absolutely.
And when we ask from God, I believe He has all the answers.
Sure.
You know, when we go as us as parents and you're like, I'm going to nurture this child, things cannot be easy. We need help from God. We need guidance from God. You know, we have to pray for our children, consult God. How do I go along with this, you know? And usually it's a lot that is happening in these teenagers' lives.
Absolutely.
A lot of changes. Things are really happening.
Yes.
So when you speak to God and pray for your children, I believe the Lord helps them to go through that stage, which is actually a little bit difficult in growth. I think it's the hardest stage. It's a lot that really, really happens. So I know children are on holiday. Some are watching this TV, and I would like you to share something with them as teenagers. Like, we are all saying it's a lot that happens. Some, you know, they begin to change the way their voices deepen. They begin to grow the breasts in that age. And, you know, some even begin to feel shy. It's like, am I not looking bad? You know, a lot has changed, you know. And I would like you to share something with them. How would you encourage them on how they can walk through this stage well, you know, without falling into problems, some getting pregnant, some impregnating women, like a lot. How would you encourage them to walk through this path, the 7 years, you know, 13 to 19? How do you encourage them to grow, to walk through that journey smoothly?
Well, I can go first.
It's okay.
Then Christine can come in. Yes, God has graced us to work with teenagers in this direction. I'd encourage a parent there maybe to get in touch with us as well. if they can, because God has graced us with the materials. We've written a book for teenagers. There's this one here. It's called Shepherding a Teenager's Heart. And it's for parents, basically, for parents to just come and experience this. What we do here is we also what we call a rite of passage. A rite of passage is when you initiate a boy or a girl into womanhood and a boy into manhood. Some instances where they've called us to do this kind of ceremony is we ask parents to give a purity ring to the boy. It's a mom gives the boy a purity ring. It's really a symbol. It's symbolic, and we have a talk about it. Just to say, keep it pure until the time you get married. And then also for the boy, it's for the girl, it's the dad who gives the ring. And we have these conversations, crucial conversations. So parents also, we guide them on how to do that. Then for this one, we have a boys camp happening. It's called the Boys to Men Boot Camp. And it's basically for boys from the age of 7 years up to 17 years.
Wow.
So they come to the boot camp, and we talk about real issues. And if I can just share with you a snapshot of this, some of the boys who are teenagers have shared with us how, for parents out there, this could be, for my boys who are watching this, they could be feeling, Daddy, Pastor Sam is letting us down, but some of them have had sexual adventures with the house helps you have at home. And what this means is that house help could have HIV, and anything could go wrong. So that's some of the conversations we have with parents, especially about teenagers. Yeah, so those are some of the things we do. And then also, I would encourage the parents to have these conversations. But for a parent out there who could be grappling with this issue of your teenager, your son going through this, your daughter or son going through this, it's a place of seeking out for a community of, like the people we go through, we take through these programs, they come up with a community and they bond and share challenges. How is it happening on your side? For me, this is what is happening. And you can only do life with people who have the same values, who have the common problem. And but we give you a lot of hints even how to manage. Then we also have a book which I didn't come with for teenagers, purely for teenagers. They also get to meet other teenagers and just have conversations. All these programs, we have a retreat. We go away for 1 or 2 days, and then come back and just still have time to just reflect. They're all Bible-based, these conversations we have. So those are some of the things that I would really commend. And that if you can have a community around you, if you can't maybe have these programs, then get a friend or a group of people you can really walk or do life with. Because you alone, being isolated with the challenges that you're going through, you may not be able to manage. But there's also a program we call a Man of Honor, where we take men through this. Why? Because these men get to also work with their children, with their teenagers. And then also mothers raising sons, where mothers who go through, mothers also, by the way, those who have teenagers and whatever, they also go through this and are able to harness this thing called parenting of teenagers. And of course, the strand of 3 for couples who have, I shared about this earlier. It's called the strand of 3. Still, Christine and I have written this as well. But just to say that with God, everything is possible. Just like Claire said, if we can only allow God in our space, even as we parent these children, then it's a possibility. Because if we put God out of the equation, then it will be very difficult.
Yeah.
But Claire, if I could just end with this,
Okay.
there will be a talk I'll be having. It's called MyNet webinar. We shall be talking about the wellness of parents. The wellness of teenagers and parenting. And this will be happening on the 30th of November. And it's just to encourage parents, because it will be with parents as well, that you can plug in and just listen what teenagers are going through. in this. Maybe I could leave it with you so that maybe you share later for those who could want to know. But it's for those who want to find it on the website. It's called it's www.mynet.com, and we shall be having a parenting and teenage wellness session because the truth is that today teenagers have there's rise of suicidal attempts because of children, even at university. The statistics are quite staggering. If I had time, I could share, so that you'll get to understand what teenagers are going through, and also how we can help with their wellness.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pastor. I know really our time is fast spent. Oh, someone out there is like, oh my.
Yeah.
But Christine, I'll give you just 1 minute like this. You say bye to our viewers and we sign out.
Well, thank you, Claire. I want to leave you two things. One is, if you're a parent of a teenager out there, single mom, married, father, any parent, that you are not alone. Mm-hmm. You have a community around you, but most importantly, you have Christ with you. Mm-hmm. And for a teenager, I want to let you know that you're not the first teenager out there. So what you're experiencing is not unique to you alone. Mm-hmm. Find some people that you can talk to, people that are willing to walk with you this journey. Yeah. And lastly, I want to tell parents that, the Bible says that our children are taught of the Lord. Involve God in how you teach your children, and He will help you raise them the right way. Wow. God bless you.
Wow, thank you very much. I only wish we had more time, but unfortunately our time is fast spent, but it was worth it. Thank you very much for coming. It's a blessing to have you here. To our viewers, we love you so very much. From me, Claire, your host, and the Aliku's in the studio, it is a bye-bye. And God bless you. We love you.